Let us first define what we mean by North India. For purposes of describing the kinship systems found in India, Airavati Karve identified 4 cultural zones: the northern, the central, the southern and the eastern zones. The northern zone, according to Karve, lies between the Himalayas to the north and the Vindhya ranges to the south. In this region, the majority of the people speak languages derived from Sanskrit. Some of these languages are Hindi, Bihari, Sindhi, Punjabi, Assamese and Bengali. In such a large region, we cannot say that there is one kinship system. The differences of language, history and culture bring about a high degree of variation within the region. We may, however, try to look at the pattern of kinship organizations of the communities in this region on the basis of broad and general features. We can describe the basic structure and process of kinship system in this area in terms of 4 features, that is, kinship groups, kinship terminology, marriage rules and ceremonial exchange of gifts among kin. Now, we take up each of these features to discuss the kinship system in North India. Kinship groups. Sociological studies in various parts of North India show that social groups such as patrilineage, caste, subcaste provide the basis for cooperation or conflict among the people. We now discuss these groups. Patrilineage. We can say that broadly speaking, kinship organization in North India is based on unilineal descent groups. When the lineage membership group is traced on the basis of shared descent in one line, we call it a unilineal descent group. In North India, we have mostly patrilineal descent groups. This means that the descent is traced in the male line from father to son. Members of patrilineages cooperate as well as show antagonism in various situations. Let us see how this takes place in terms of cooperation, conflict, inheritance of status and property. Cooperation. Members of a patrilineage cooperate in ritual and economic activities. They participate together in life cycle rituals. In settlement of disputes, the senior men of the lineage try to sort out the matter within the lineage. A lineage is an exogamous unit, that is, a boy and a girl of the same lineage cannot marry. A larger exogamous category is called the clan. Among the Hindus, this category is known as Gotra. Each person belongs to the clan of his/her father and cannot marry within the clan or Gotra. One usually knows about the common ancestor of lineage members as an actual person, but the common ancestor of a clan is generally a mythical figure. The members of a lineage live in close proximity and therefore have greater occasions for cooperation or conflict. Common interests or action do not characterize the relationships among clan members because they are usually scattered over a larger territory and their relationships are often quite remote. These relationships do become significant only in the context of marriage. That is why we will discuss this point once again in section on marriage rules. Caste and subcaste. Besides lineages and clans, the kinship system operates within the families of the caste groups living in one village or a nearby cluster of villages. As castes are endogamous, that is, one marries within one's caste, people belonging to one caste group are kin persons in the sense that they are already related or can be potentially related to each other. Caste fellows generally come forward to help each other when others challenge their honor and status. They may also hold rituals together and help each other economically. Subcaste is the largest segment of caste and it performs nearly all the functions of caste such as endogamy and social control. In this respect, we can say that the internal structure of the subcaste would provide us the framework within which we can see the operation of kinship system. The members of a subcaste cooperate as kin persons. They, depending on the context, work together as equals in the sphere of ritual activities and political allies in socio-economic activities. As Vidyarthi has shown, in the case of a very small subcaste, one may trace one's relationship with most members of the subcaste. On the other hand, in the case of a subcaste spreading over many villages, one may be limited to maintaining relations with only a part of the total number of kin. Class, in his study of marriage rules in Bengal, calls this part of the total as one's effective jati, that is, those people of the subcaste with whom one actually has relationships of cooperation or conflict. Among the subcaste kin, we should also include those related to a person through marriage. Here, generally a person's kin through mother are called uterine kin and those through spouse are known as affinal kin. These relatives are not members of one's family or lineage or clan. They are expected to help and support each other and actually do so when an occasion arises for such an action. While a person belongs to only one lineage, one clan or one subcaste, he would always have a string of relatives who do not belong to his lineage, clan, subcaste. Here we should mention how sociologists, following the descent approach to study kinship systems, try to explain the fact of special place of the relationship between a person and his or her mother's brother. For example, A.R. Radcliffe Brown in 1958 went to the extent of coining a new term to express this relationship. Following the principle of filiation, that is, the relationship between a father and son, in the case of a patrilineal society, a person's relationship with his mother's brother is to be understood by the idea of filiation on mother's side or the principle of complementary filiation. Without going into further details about this theoretical issue, we would like to tell you that those following the alliance approach like to explain the same fact in terms of repetition of intermarriage through generations. Fictive kin. We should also mention in passing the recognition of fictive kinship among villagers. Often, people who are not related either by descent or marriage form the bonds of fictive kinship with each other. We find the evidence of such a practice in many tribal and village studies. On the basis of common residence in a village in North India, unrelated individuals may usually behave like brothers. Mahapatra in 1969 points out that fictive kinship is a mechanism to provide even such kin who are not ordinarily found in a particular situation. For example, in North India, where village exogamy is a normal practice, it is rare to find a brother to a daughter-in-law living in the same locality. She can get a brother only through a fictive relationship. In urban context, you must have frequently come across small children who call any older man uncle and an older woman auntie. This shows how easily we make use of kinship idiom in our day-to-day behavior towards total strangers. These transitory relationships do not, however, assume much importance in terms of actual kin, ties, and behavior associated with them. Kinship terminology. A comparison and analysis of the various kinship terms helps us to understand the kinship structure, its makeup, and the behavior associated with each term. In other words, kinship terms provide the context and the idiom for our social relationships. In this sense, kinship terms do not just tell us about biological and social relationship. They help us to look at the whole way of social life. Only after studying the language, values and behavior of the particular people can we fully appreciate the significance of their kinship terms. Many times the same kinship term is used to denote different meanings in different contexts. This is the reason why the study of kinship terms is closely associated with the study of language and culture. Here, we discuss how this is the case in relation to the kinship terms used in the linguistic regions of the northern zone. Descriptive nature of North Indian kinship terms. The kinship terminology is the expression of kinship relations in linguistic terms. In the case of North India, we can call the system of terminology as descriptive. This is because the kinship terms generally describe the relationship from the point of view of the speaker. In a few words, even the most distant kin relationships can be accurately described. Unlike the English terms uncle, auntie, cousin, which do not reveal age, patrilineal, matrilineal ties, the North Indian kinship terms are very clear. For example, when we say Chachera Bai, it can be easily translated as father's younger brother's Chacha's son, who stands the relationship of a brother Bai to the speaker. Similarly, Mamera Bai means mother's brother's mama's son. According to L. Dumont, 1966-96, the North Indian kinship terminology is descriptive in the sense that it describes elementary relationship starting from ego. The elementary relationships of filiation upwards and downwards, siblingship, sister or brother, and marriage comprise the first set of terms. Then we have the relationships of the second order. These are formed by combining two elementary relationships, that is, filiation plus filiation, filiation plus siblingship, siblingship plus filiation, marriage plus filiation, or marriage plus siblingship. The third order of relationships is represented by filiation plus marriage plus filiation. Further, for Dumont in 1966, the North Indian kinship terminology is not a classificatory type of terminology because it does not classify the kinship terms according to the number of principles of opposition. However, to emphasize the patrilineal descent, we find a clear-cut distinction made between parallel and cross cousins. The children of one's brother are Bhatija for male child and Bhatiji for female child. The children of one's sister are Banja for male child and Banji for female child. A person's parallel relatives are members of his or her descent group and therefore they also live nearby in the same village. In contrast, a person's sister's children or cross relatives are members of a different descent group. They are also residents of a different place. This distinction between brothers' children and sisters' children, which is made in North Indian kinship terminology, is also of importance in the context of kinship system in South India. Now we see how kinship terms signify social behavior. Social behavior. Airavati Karve in 1953 has given a list of kinship terms in North Indian languages. She makes use of kinship terminologies to describe and compare kinship systems in various parts of India. She studies the terms and also uses the findings for understanding the influences which have played a part in shaping them. Besides Airavati Karve, we can also give another example of the analysis of Indo-Aryan kinship terms made by G.S. Gurye in 1946-1955. He has highlighted the jural and ideological aspects of kinship systems through a comparison of kinship terms in North Indian languages. For example, among the Sarjapari Brahmins, the term man refers to the bride taker. In ideological terms, man reflects the high status of the bride taker as compared to the bride giver. In jural terms, it denotes the fact that the bride takers do not share property with the bride givers. Kinship terms signifying social behavior. The very usage of kinship term also makes clear the kind of behavior expected from a kin. For example, Oscar Lewis, in his study of a North Indian village, has described the pattern and relationship between a person and his elder brother's wife. This is popularly known as Devar-Babi relationship, which is characteristically a joking relationship. As a contrast to the joking relationship is the behavior of avoidance between a woman and her husband's father. Similarly, she has to avoid her husband's elder brother. The term for husband's father is Swasur and for husband's elder brother, Basur. Basur is a combination of the Sanskrit word Bratra, brother, and Swasur, father-in-law, and is therefore like father-in-law. Marriage rules. Because every time a marriage is contracted, new kinship bonds come into being. We can clearly see the relevance of marriage rules for discussing the patterns of kinship organization. In the context of North India, we find that people know whom not to marry. In sociological terms, the same thing can be expressed by saying that there are negative rules of marriage in North India. We can also say that marriage is allowed only outside a defined limit. Let us see what this limit or the rule of exogamy is in North India. Clan exogamy. Belonging to one's natal descent line is best expressed in matters of marriage. No man is allowed to marry a daughter of his patrilineage. In North India, lineage ties up to 5 or 6 generations are generally remembered, and marriage alliances are not allowed within this range. In such a situation, the lineage turns into the clan, and we speak of Gotra or clan and Gotra by clan mates. Widely used Sanskrit term Gotra is an exogamous category within a subcaste. Its main use is to regulate marriage within a subcaste. The 4-clan rule. Airavati Karve's 1953, 118 words. According to this rule, a man must not marry a woman from his father's Gotra, his mother's Gotra, his father's mother's Gotra, and his mother's mother's Gotra. In other words, this rule prohibits marriage between 2 persons who share any 2 of their 8 Gotra links. This means that the rule of exogamy goes beyond one's own lineage. Another related kind of exogamy which exists in North India is village exogamy. A village usually has members of 1 or 2 lineages living in it. Members belonging to the same lineage are not permitted to intermarry. This principle extends even to the villages which have more than 2 lineages. In other words, a boy and a girl in a village in North India are like a brother and sister and hence cannot intermarry. It is important here to give you a word of caution. We have spoken about lineage, clan and subcaste in relation to organization of kinship patterns. But we have not mentioned terms like kutumb, biradari, khandan, bhai, band, etc. These denote various colloquial meanings of the general terms lineage, clan and subcaste in local languages. It is important here to give you a word of caution. Taking the example of the Sarjapuri Brahmin of Mirzapur district in Uttar Pradesh, studied by Louis Dumont, we find that each of the 3 subcastes of Sarjapuri Brahmins of this area is divided into 3 houses, kinships or lineages, which range hierarchically in status. The marriages are always arranged from lower to higher house. This means that women are always given to the family which is placed in the house above her own. In this context, we can also refer to the popular saying in North India that the creeper must not go back. The same idea is reflected by another North Indian saying that pav puchke ladki nahi le jayenge. That is, once we have washed the feet of the bridegroom during the wedding ceremony, we cannot accept a girl from his family because this will mean that we allow that side to wash our feet or allow the reversal of relationships. This shows clearly that marriage rules in North India maintain a hierarchic relationship between the bride givers and bride takers. In terms of negative rules of marriage in North India, the above description reflects the rule that a man cannot marry his father's sister's daughter or his patrilateral cross cousin. A prohibition or repetition shows that matrilateral cross-cousin marriage is barred in North India. Thus, we find that both patrilateral and matrilateral cross-cousin marriages are not allowed in North India. In other words, the two rules, the rule of no reversal and the rule of no repetition, but together define the negative rules of marriage in North India. Highlighting the structural implications of marriage rules in North India, T.N. Madan in 1965, in his study of the Kashmiri Pandits, distinguishes three classes of wife givers and wife takers. In other words, the two rules, the rule of no reversal and the rule of no repetition, but together define the negative rules of marriage in North India. These are the terms used by T.N. Madan in the place of bride taker and bride giver used in this unit. From the perspective of the household, those who give it wives and those who take wives from it, those who give wives to those in class and those who take wives from class. These three classes have unequal relationships. However, honor and prestige go in the opposite direction to women in marriage. This means that wife takers are superior to wife givers, and by the fact of giving a wife to a group, one receives honor and prestige within one's own group. Ceremonial exchange of gifts among kin. L. Dumont has pointed out that mother's brother, uterine kin, and wife's brother, affinal kin, have similar ceremonial functions. Not only this, as wife's brother becomes, after a few years, mother's brother to the children, there is little difference between the two. A.C. Mayer has described in his study of kinship in a village in Malwa that all gifts given by one's mother's brother are called mamere. Ceremonial exchange of gifts on the occasions of life cycle rituals provides us with the understanding of a pattern behavior among various categories of kin. Generally, the bride givers, in correspondence with their inferior status vis-a-vis bride takers, initiate the process of gift giving during marriage and continue to give greater amounts of gifts. In other words, you can say that gift giving and receiving is a well-defined social activity. Let us take two examples of this behavior. L. Dumont has pointed out that mother's brother, uterine kin, and wife's brother, affinal kin, have similar ceremonial functions. Not only this, as wife's brother becomes, after a few years, mother's brother to the children, there is little difference between the two. A.C. Mayer has described in his study of kinship in a village in Malwa that all gifts given by one's mother's brother are called mamere. In contrast to the gifts given by the mother's brother, there are gifts known as ban. Ban is the term used also for the gift which is given by other relatives such as the groom's sister's husband to the groom's wife's brothers. This shows that the groom's sister's husband or father's sister's husband in the context of the ascending generation is viewed to be a part of agnatic kin vis-a-vis the groom's wife's brother or mother's brother for the ascending generation. In sociological vocabulary, we can put the same thing in this way. We look at the groom's sister's husband or father's sister's husband as a wife taker. Similarly, we look at the groom's wife's brother or his mother's brother as a wife giver. Now, if the gift to A's wife givers, that is, mother's brother or wife's brother, by A's wife taker, sister's husband or father's sister's husband, and by A's agnates are known by the same term, bun, then we can say that in opposition to A's wife givers, his agnates and wife takers have been merged into one category. This is so because for the groom's wife's brother or mother's brother, the groom is a wife taker and groom's wife taker is his sister's husband or father's sister's husband. These two sets of wife takers are on one side and the wife givers are on the other. Changes in age at marriage of women in rural North India. There has been a dramatic increase in age at marriage for women in a rural area of North India. Age at marriage rose from under 12 years before 1930 to about 19 years in 1988, mainly as a result of socio-economic development and advances in education of women. In order to investigate the changes in age at marriage and the motivations behind the changes, a survey in 1988 was administered to every married woman in a group of 10 villages in the Shimla district of Himachal Pradesh, India. Recent changes have increased road access to Shimla from the villages, thus making cash cropping possible. Educational facilities have also been expanded and economic status has improved. 5 primary schools and 1 secondary high school service the villages and advanced education is available in Shimla. Children born after 1970 were enrolled in primary school and school dropout rates have decreased. There is a maternal and child health center, electricity and a drinking water supply provided by the government. The results showed that the cingulate mean age at marriage was 19.7 years. Compared to 1981 Shimla district census data, this age is 6 months higher in 7 years, assuming comparability between the village cluster and Shimla district. The mean age at marriage is calculated at 15.5 years and 18.5 years for the cohort marriage after 1981. The increase in age at marriage appears to be recent. Pre-pubertal marriage remained high up to 1950. By 1980, 33% were pre-pubertal marriages and by 1988, 7%. Education is considered to be the most important reason for delay of marriage. Educated women and marriage to educated husbands were related to higher age at marriage even when husbands came from another village. When data was analyzed for daughters married within the study village cluster and parents' level of education, the results showed that there were no arranged marriages before the age of 15 for daughters of any fathers with 5 or more years of education. Major differences appear by caste. Rajput women have the highest age at marriage regardless of cohort, then followed by the Brahmins, who also have the lowest age of marriage among the oldest and the youngest cohorts. The lowest age at marriage is among the Sudra women, who are poor and dependent on the Rajputs and the Brahmins and marry off daughters early for the bride price. Marriage delays were also affected by horoscope problems, delays in elder brothers and sisters' marriages, poverty of parents, gossip about premarital relations, physical deformities of the girl, and the combination of inauspicious dates. All marriage cohorts showed that women married to uneducated or poorly educated men had lower age at marriage. The age difference between spouses also has decreased, which has led to a decrease in multiple marriages. Future increases in age at marriage are possible only if there is a demand for educated wives. In this unit, you have learned about the definition of kinship system and then about the main approaches to the study of kinship system in India. The unit has focused on major aspects of kinship patterns found in North India. These aspects have been discussed in terms of kinship groups, kinship terminology, marriage rules, and ceremonial exchange of gifts among kin. The three kinship groups in North India are patrilineage, clan, and subcaste. In ritual and economic spheres, members of a patrilineage come together. Living side by side, they exchange a number of services, material resources among each other. Lineage members often face conflicting interests when it comes to property matters. Brothers fight over land and other properties.